Put it down. The voice was sharp, a shard of glass in the Saturday afternoon hum of Toy World. Children like you don't belong in here. The words were aimed at 8-year-old Zoe Thompson, a small, bright girl in a neat school uniform clutching her backpack. Her eyes, wide with a fear she didn't yet understand, lifted to the towering figure of the store manager, Linda Brennan, whose face was a mask of pure contempt. Zoe had only been looking at a science kit, a complex web of wires and circuits that promised to build a robot. She was waiting for her father to finish a business call in the food court, blissfully unaware that a stranger's inexplicable hatred was about to descend upon her. But the universe often has its own schedule for justice, and on this day, karma was about to walk through the front doors of the Westfield Mall and end a career. Zoe Thompson was not just any little girl. At 8 years old, she possessed a quiet brilliance that outshone her years. She read science books for pleasure and could explain the mechanics of robotics with a clarity that baffled most adults. In her perfectly pressed uniform, she moved through the world with a shy curiosity, an explorer who saw wonder in the mundane. Her father, James Thompson, walked the tightrope between being the CEO of Megatech Corporation and being a single father. His world was a constant negotiation between boardroom meetings and bedtime stories, between multi-million-dollar deals and third-grade math homework. Since his wife's passing 3 years prior, his greatest achievement wasn't his tech empire. It was Zoe. That Saturday, as he finalized a crucial deal on his phone, he had no idea his daughter was facing a trial no child should ever endure. And then there was Linda Brennan. At 42, with 15 years of retail experience, she wore her authority like ill-fitting armor. Life had soured her. A recent divorce had left a bitter taste in her mouth and a permanent hardness in her eyes. She viewed the world through a distorted lens of suspicion, a lens that focused with particular venom on anyone who didn't look like her. The moment Linda spotted Zoe, mesmerized by the robotics kit, something dark flickered in her gaze. "Here we go again," she muttered, as if a child's quiet fascination was a personal threat. She raised her voice, loud enough for half the store to hear. "Where are this child's parents? They just let them wander around unsupervised." The venom in the word "they" made other customers turn. Her employees exchanged uneasy glances, recognizing the familiar hostile tone. Linda marched across the floor, her face twisted with an ugliness that came from deep within. She stopped directly in front of Zoe. "Little girl, these toys aren't for you. Where's your mother?" Raised to be polite, Zoe looked up with innocent eyes. "My daddy is finishing a work call in the food court. He'll be here soon." Linda rolled her eyes with theatrical disgust. "Sure he is," she sneered. "Put those toys down before you break something." Just a few feet away, 2 other children were pulling toys from shelves and running loudly through the aisles. Linda didn't spare them a glance. Her focus was entirely on the quiet, well-behaved girl who was doing nothing but reading. The prejudice was so naked it was painful to witness. A few minutes later, Zoe, ever curious, asked a simple, intelligent question about the robotics kit. Linda snapped back, "You wouldn't understand it anyway. These are educational toys." She was telling an honor student, captivated by science, that she was too stupid to learn. A woman shopping nearby gasped, but Linda was emboldened by the attention. "I need to watch this one closely," she announced to the store, as if Zoe were not a child, but a threat. Her behavior then spiraled from disgusting to predatory. She began to follow Zoe, stalking her through the aisles. "Don't touch that," she barked. "Put it back," she yelled. "I'm watching you," she repeated, her voice a low growl meant to intimidate and humiliate. Zoe's small hands began to shake. She fought back tears, her confusion mounting. She had done nothing wrong, but in Linda's mind, her guilt was predetermined. "These people think they can just take whatever they want," Linda hissed to a co-worker, who looked away, ashamed but silent. Linda then stormed to the store phone and called mall security. "I have a suspicious unaccompanied minor in my store," she reported. "She's acting erratically and is probably planning something." An 8-year-old planning something while reading about robots. While waiting for security, Linda became a warden. She forbade Zoe from sitting down or moving, forcing the child to stand in one spot under her hateful stare. Zoe's fear was palpable now. She kept glancing toward the entrance, praying for her father to appear. Just then, a family entered, a mother, a father, and their son, who was about Zoe's age. Linda's demeanor shifted instantly. A wide, false smile stretched across her face. "Welcome to Toy World," she chirped. "Let me know if you need anything." Their son immediately ran to the electronics section, grabbing expensive toys and making a racket. Linda did nothing. She smiled at his parents. "Boys will be boys," she said warmly. "So nice to see children who appreciate quality toys." All the while she shot glances of pure hatred at Zoe, who stood frozen in her designated spot. The contrast was so stark, so blatant, that customers began to whisper. Some pulled out their phones, documenting the unbelievable scene. Blinded by her own prejudice, Linda marched back to Zoe and crossed a final line. "I need you to empty your backpack, now." "Why?" Zoe asked, her voice a tiny, frightened whisper. "Just checking what you might have taken," Linda announced for all to hear, accusing an innocent child of theft with no evidence but the color of her skin. With trembling hands, Zoe unzipped her backpack. Linda seized it, upended it, and spilled its contents onto the cold, polished floor. Homework, art supplies, a juice box, a book about space exploration, the simple treasures of a studious child, now scattered like evidence at a crime scene. Linda sifted through the items with theatrical suspicion as onlookers stared in horror. She was drunk on power, completely unaware that her life was about to be dismantled. James Thompson had just ended his call. He was walking toward the toy store, about to witness his daughter being terrorized by a woman who had just made the last mistake of her life. Linda, however, was not finished. She looked at the disgusted faces of the other customers not with shame, but with self-righteous indignation. In her twisted mind, she was the hero, protecting her store. She decided to escalate. She picked up the phone again, her lies reaching a new level of evil. "Security, this is Linda at Toy World. I need you here immediately. I have a shoplifting suspect and I need her detained." A shoplifting suspect. She was talking about an 8-year-old girl who had never even moved from the educational aisle. "The suspect is a young black female," she continued into the phone, her voice cold and official. "Unaccompanied, acting suspiciously around high-value merchandise. I believe she may have concealed items." The crowd listened in stunned silence. They had seen everything. They knew it was a lie. Little Zoe, now sobbing, her small body shaking with fear, pleaded in the most heartbreaking voice imaginable. "Can I please call my daddy? He's just in the food court. Please, I just want my daddy." The desperation in her voice would have melted any heart. But Linda Brennan didn't have one. Her response would echo with pure evil. "Your daddy," she sneered, the words dripping with disbelief, "can come find you at the security office if he even exists." She was suggesting this well-cared-for child was a liar, an orphan, a nobody. The psychological cruelty was breathtaking. "What did I do wrong?" Zoe cried, her voice broken. "I didn't do anything wrong." "Stop crying and making a scene," Linda snapped. "You brought this on yourself with your suspicious behavior." When 2 mall security guards arrived, they found a bizarre scene. A weeping child, her school supplies scattered on the floor, a crowd of angry customers, and Linda, standing tall as if she had just apprehended a master criminal. She launched into a performance for the officers, her voice dripping with fake concern. "Officers, thank you for getting here so quickly. This child has been acting suspiciously since she entered. I noticed her handling expensive merchandise inappropriately, touching items clearly beyond what someone her age should be interested in." She was talking about educational toys in a toy store and suggesting a bright child had no right to be interested in learning. But Linda was just getting warmed up with her lies. When I tried to offer assistance, she became evasive. She claimed she was waiting for a parent, but as you can see, no one has come. She's been alone for over an hour now. An hour? It had been 20 minutes, tops, since James had told Zoe to wait for him at the store. But Linda was already rewriting history, twisting time itself to justify her own prejudice. I became concerned when I saw her handling high-value items, then glancing around nervously. When I asked to see the contents of her bag, she was reluctant. Reluctant? The child had immediately complied with the humiliating demand, emptying her backpack onto the floor without a word. "Based on my 15 years of retail experience," Linda continued, her chest puffed with an imagined authority, "I believe she fits the profile of the shoplifters we've been dealing with. Young, unaccompanied minors who case the joint and either steal immediately or return later with accomplices. She fits the profile. The words hung in the air, a thinly veiled racism so loud it was deafening. An 8-year-old girl in a pristine school uniform fit the profile of a criminal, simply because she was black. But Linda's cruelty was far from spent. I also have concerns about this alleged father. No responsible parent leaves a child this young unattended for so long. I suspect she may be a runaway making up stories to avoid trouble. A runaway. She was labeling a child in a private school uniform, with a backpack full of homework and art supplies, a potential runaway. Even the security guards were beginning to look uneasy. They could see the school books scattered on the floor. They could see her neat uniform, her clean appearance. They could hear the blatant lies in Linda's story, but they were trapped. A store manager's complaint had to be taken seriously, no matter how wrong it felt. Through a veil of tears, Zoe's voice was a fragile whisper, broken by hiccuping sobs as she tried to explain. "I'm waiting for my daddy, like I always do," she whispered to the guards. "He's on a work call in the food court. I didn't take anything. I just like looking at the robot kits. Because I want to be a scientist, like him. I didn't do anything wrong." Her explanation was so simple, so heartbreakingly honest, that a flicker of discomfort crossed the security guards' faces. They were caught between the manager's furious accusations and the gut-wrenching truth of a terrified child. But Linda refused to let facts derail her narrative. "See?" she sneered, gesturing at Zoe as if she were evidence in a trial. "They always have a story. My daddy this, my daddy that. It's textbook for children who are trained to lie." Trained to lie? She was accusing someone of coaching this little girl to be a criminal. "I've been in this business for 15 years, Linda pressed on, as if that made her an expert in child psychology. "I know trouble when I see it. And this one has been nothing but red flags since she walked in." She was looking at a sobbing 8-year-old honor student and calling her trouble because of the color of her skin. One of the guards, clearly wanting the ordeal to end, tried to intervene. "Ma'am, perhaps we could just call the number for her father. If he's in the food court, we could clear this up quickly." It was a logical solution, a lifeline, but Linda severed it instantly. "Absolutely not," she snapped. "We are not enabling this behavior. If there really is a father, he can come looking for her. I will not help her contact potential accomplices." Accomplices. She had just branded an 8-year-old's father a criminal. By now, a crowd was gathering. Word was spreading through the mall. Shoppers were stopping, their faces hardening with anger as they witnessed the injustice. And then, something shifted. The silent witnesses found their voices. A woman who had seen it all stepped forward, her voice trembling with rage. "Excuse me, but I've been here for 30 minutes. This child has done nothing wrong. Nothing. What you are doing to her is disgusting." Another mother, holding her own daughter's hand, added, her voice laced with fire. "I saw how you treated that white family whose kid was running wild, pulling toys off the shelves. You were all smiles. But this little girl stands here quietly, and you treat her like a criminal? This is racism, plain and simple." A man holding his own child spoke up, his voice thick with disgust. "You should be ashamed of yourself. You're terrorizing that little girl." But instead of shame, Linda found only defiance. She doubled down, her voice ringing with a perverse sense of righteousness. "I don't need a lecture from any of you. I am doing my job. I am protecting this store from theft. If you people can't see I'm dealing with a potential shoplifter, then you're part of the problem." She gestured dramatically at Zoe. "This child fits the profile, and I will not apologize for being vigilant in my store." My store. As if a manager's badge gave her the right to own the space and terrorize the children within it. "If you don't like how I run my establishment," she shouted, her voice growing harsher, "you can take your business elsewhere. I will not let political correctness stop me from protecting what's mine." Political correctness. She had twisted basic human decency into a political slogan to justify her cruelty. The crowd swelled, their murmurs turning into a chorus of condemnation. Phones were out, recording. Someone mentioned calling Child Protective Services. "This is sickening. Look at that poor baby. This is 2024, not 1954. How is this happening?" But Linda stood firm, arms crossed, glaring at the sobbing child as if Zoe were the villain. She had dug herself into a hole of pride and prejudice so deep she could no longer see the light. Meanwhile, 200 yards away, in the sterile quiet of the food court, James Thompson was closing the deal of a lifetime. He was oblivious, lost in a world of mergers and multi-million-dollar contracts, his phone silenced. As he finally ended the call and reached for his coffee, his screen lit up and his blood ran cold. His stomach plummeted. 7 missed calls from the mall's main number, 3 voicemails, 2 texts from mall security. Zoe was at the toy store. He knew, with a certainty that seized his heart, that something was terribly, terribly wrong. Ignoring the voicemails, his hands shaking, James grabbed his briefcase and ran. His expensive shoes slapped against the tile as he dodged shoppers, his mind a maelstrom of every parent's worst fears. Had she been hurt? Lost? Taken? As he neared the store, his panic spiked. A large crowd was gathered. Through the sea of people, he saw the uniforms of security guards, then mall police. His daughter was in the middle of that chaos. He was simply a father, running toward his child, unaware that he was about to step into a scene that would not only change his life, but also deliver a reckoning of legendary proportions. He pushed through the throng, his heart hammering against his ribs. Nothing could have prepared him for what he saw. There, in the center of a cold ring of guards, was his daughter. Not just crying, she was hysterical, her small body racked with uncontrollable tremors, her face a mask of pure terror. The moment Zoe saw him, she broke free and ran, crashing into his arms and burying her face in his suit.
Daddy! Daddy, I didn't do anything wrong, I promise. She said I was stealing, but I wasn't. I was just looking at the robot kits. Please believe me.
Hearing her desperate pleas, seeing her in this state, something inside James snapped. This was his baby girl, his world, and someone had broken her. He knelt, wrapping his arms around her, his own hands shaking with rage. It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here. You're safe. I believe you, baby girl. I know you didn't do anything wrong. As he comforted her, his eyes scanned the store, searching for the person responsible. And then he saw her, Linda Brennan, standing 10 feet away, watching the reunion with an expression of smug satisfaction. James gently pulled back from Zoe. Stay right here with me, okay? Daddy's going to fix this. Then he rose to his full height and fixed his gaze on Linda. James Thompson did not yell when he was angry. His rage was a cold, quiet thing, a controlled fury that was infinitely more intimidating than any shouting match. Excuse me, he said, his voice perfectly level, yet carrying an edge of ice. I'm Zoe Thompson's father. Would someone please explain to me exactly what is going on here? Linda stepped forward, radiating an arrogance that proved she had no idea who she was dealing with. Oh, Mr. Thompson, thank goodness you're here, she began, her voice dripping with false concern. I'm Linda Brennan, the manager. I assure you I took completely reasonable precautions. Given the suspicious circumstances and the profile of individuals we've been having trouble with, I felt it was necessary to involve security. Reasonable precautions, suspicious circumstances, the profile. Each word was a coded insult, and James heard every one. I hope you understand, she continued. I was simply doing my job. Your daughter was unaccompanied, handling expensive merchandise, and became evasive when questioned. These are all red flags. James listened, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he asked a single, quiet question. What exactly did my daughter do? The directness of it seemed to startle her. Well, as I said, she was engaging in suspicious activities. Loitering, touching merchandise without intent to purchase. James's voice remained calm, but now it was forged from steel. So you're telling me my daughter's crime was playing with toys in a toy store while waiting for her father? It's not that simple, Linda protested, a note of defensiveness in her voice. We've been having problems with certain types of customers, and your daughter fit the profile of... She stopped, but it was too late. Fit the profile of what? James asked softly. Linda stammered, cornered by her own bigotry. Well, unaccompanied minors from certain backgrounds. Everyone in the store knew exactly what she meant, and so did James Thompson. He did not raise his voice. He simply, deliberately, pulled out his phone and made a call that would bring Linda Brennan's world crashing down. Sarah, it's James. Patch me through to corporate headquarters. Yes, now. This is urgent. And get legal and HR on the line. I don't care if you have to wake them up. Linda watched, a flicker of confusion on her face. Corporate headquarters? Sarah, pull up the file on our Toy World subsidiary. Yes, the entire chain. I also need the employment records for the Westfield Mall location. Specifically, I need everything you have on the manager. Linda Brennan. At the mention of her name, a knot of real fear tightened in Linda's stomach. You can't just demand people's employment records, she said with a nervous laugh. That's not how... James held up a single finger, silencing her without looking away. Yes, Sarah. I want Linda Brennan terminated immediately. Effective right now. The aftermath was swift and digital. Videos of the confrontation went viral. The hashtag #JusticeForZoe trending globally. Linda's past social media posts surfaced, painting a clear picture of her prejudice and making her unemployable overnight. But for James, her firing was not the end. It was the beginning. He instituted mandatory, company-wide anti-discrimination training across all his stores, with a zero-tolerance policy for racial profiling. His program became a new standard for retailers nationwide. Later, over ice cream, he tried to explain to Zoe. Some people have hate inside their hearts, sweetheart, he said gently. It has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. But why was she so mean? Zoe asked, her eyes still shadowed. I don't know, baby girl, but we can't let her hate win. I want to help other kids, Zoe said, a new determination in her voice that reminded James so much of her mother. I'll help you do exactly that, he promised. And she did. Zoe grew up to become a civil rights attorney, founding a foundation in her name to protect children from the very prejudice she had faced. Linda Brennan faded into obscurity, a cautionary tale of the consequences of hate. But this was never a story about punishment. It is a story about the unassailable power of standing up for what is right and the sacred duty to shield the innocence of a child from the darkness of adult hatred. Because every child, everywhere, deserves to feel safe. In the face of a hatred that seeks to extinguish a light, a counterforce must rise to make it shine all the brighter. This was that lesson, written in the harsh fluorescent glare of a toy store. It was a testament to the power of good people to protect innocence and the inevitable consequence of crossing the wrong family. But the story was far from over. Linda Brennan was about to provide a master class in the pathetic depths a person can reach when their own bigotry finally corners them. As security guards moved to escort her from the premises, a primal panic seized her. She collapsed, a puppet with its strings cut, her hands clawing at the fine wool of James's suit trousers like a beggar in a Victorian novel. She seemed utterly oblivious to the gallery of silent witnesses, their smartphones held aloft like digital torches, capturing her ignominious unraveling for posterity. Please, Mr. Thompson, please don't do this to me, she sobbed, every trace of her earlier arrogance washed away. Black rivers of mascara carved paths through her foundation. Her hair, once neatly styled, was a disheveled mess from her frantic gestures. Her voice had become a high-pitched wail, a sound both pitiful and infuriating. I made a mistake. I see that now, but you don't understand. I have a mortgage, a teenage daughter who needs me, car payments, credit card bills. I'm already drowning from my divorce. I can't lose this job. It's all I have left. The wretched irony of it all hung thick in the air. Here was a woman, begging a black father not to shatter her life, moments after she had tried to shatter his 8-year-old daughter's sense of safety in the world. She was pleading for a mercy she had so cruelly withheld from an innocent child. But her desperation was a truth serum, revealing the true venom of her prejudice. I was just trying to do my job, she babbled, her voice growing more shrill. You have to understand we've had so many problems with shoplifters. Corporate has been putting so much pressure on us. They told us to be vigilant, to watch for suspicious behavior. I was just following orders. Following orders. As if she were a soldier in a war, not a retail manager who had just terrorized a little girl. And you know how it is, she pressed on, somehow believing this would vindicate her, with the kind of people who usually cause trouble in stores like these. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've learned to spot the signs. Your daughter, she fit the profile perfectly. I couldn't have known she was different. She fit the profile perfectly. Even at her lowest point, she couldn't stop. With every word, she dug her own grave a little deeper. James looked down at the groveling woman, his expression an unreadable mask of controlled fury. A quiet inferno far more terrifying than any shouted rage. "Miss Brennan," he said. His voice was quiet, yet it sliced through the store's ambient noise, commanding silence. "Your behavior today was recorded by multiple customers. I can see at least a dozen people right now who have video footage of you terrorizing my daughter." Linda's face went chalk white as the full implication hit her. Her eyes darted around frantically and she saw them. Phones everywhere, all pointed at her, all immortalizing her racist meltdown. "That footage," James continued in that same deadly calm tone, "is already blooming across the internet as we speak. I guarantee you that by this evening millions of people will have witnessed how you treat innocent children. Your face, your name, your actions, all of it will be viral within hours." The horror in Linda's eyes was absolute. She understood that her reputation, her career, her entire life was being immolated on the pyre of her own hatred. In the modern world, this was a career death sentence, and she knew it. "No. No, no," she stammered, looking at the phones as if they were a firing squad. "You can't let them post that. You have to stop them. I have a daughter. She'll see this. Her friends will see it. You can't destroy my life." But James was not finished. "Our own security footage will be reviewed by our legal team," he went on, each word a physical blow. "Every moment of your interaction with my daughter has been captured in high definition. Every racist comment, every cruel action, every lie you told, all of it is now documented evidence." Linda was hyperventilating, the reality of her situation finally crushing her. She was going to lose everything. Her job, her reputation, her future, all because she could not contain her prejudice against a child. "Furthermore," James added, and a note of grim satisfaction entered his voice as he delivered the killing blow, "you are now permanently banned from all Megatech retail locations. That includes not just every Toy World in the country, but our electronics stores, our department stores, and our online platforms. Our retail empire spans 47 states and over 3,000 locations." The sheer scale of the ban was staggering. Megatech was a titan of industry. Being banned meant she was essentially blacklisted from a significant portion of American retail. "If you set foot in any of our properties," James concluded, "you will be arrested for trespassing. Your photograph will be distributed to security teams nationwide. In the world of retail, Miss Brennan, you are now persona non grata." Linda made a horrible gasping sound as if all the air had been punched from her lungs. The security guards finally reached her, but she made one last desperate lunge, clawing at James's jacket. "I can change," she shrieked, her voice cracking with hysteria. "I'll take sensitivity training. I'll go to therapy. I can learn. Please, just give me another chance. I didn't mean it." Her words tumbled out, a frantic, incoherent stream of spittle and excuses. "I have African American friends. I voted for Obama twice. I'm not a racist. I was just having a bad day. My ex-husband, he's been harassing me. I'm on anxiety medication. I haven't been sleeping. I just made a mistake." She blamed her ex-husband, her medication, her exhaustion, anything and everything but herself. "Please," she begged, her grip tightening on his lapel. "I didn't know. I didn't know she was your daughter. If I had known who you were, I never would have." And there it was, the rotten core of her character, exposed for all to see. She still didn't understand. The problem wasn't that she had terrorized the wrong child. The problem was that she had terrorized any child. James's response was ice cold and final. He gently but firmly pried her hands from his jacket. "Miss Brennan," he said, "the fact that you think it matters whose daughter she is tells me everything I need to know. No child should ever be treated the way you treated Zoe today. Not for any reason." He paused, letting the words sink in as her face crumpled in defeat. "The fact that you would have acted differently, had you known who I was, proves that your apology is meaningless. You are not sorry for your racism. You are sorry you aimed it at someone with the power to hold you accountable." He held up a hand, silencing the protest already forming on her lips. "You made your choice today, Miss Brennan. You chose cruelty over kindness. You chose to terrorize an innocent child because you thought she was powerless. Now, you will live with the consequences." As security finally took her by the arms, she unleashed one final desperate volley. "This isn't fair," she screamed, her voice echoing through the store. "I was protecting the store. This is reverse discrimination. This is racism against white people." Even then, she could not see. The delusion was breathtaking. "You can't do this to me," she wailed as they dragged her away. "I have rights. I'll sue. I'll call the media. You can't destroy someone's life over one little mistake." One little mistake. As she disappeared through the doors, a wave of cathartic applause swept through the crowd of customers. It was the sound of justice, swift and undeniable. But while the store exorcised its demon, James's world had shrunk to the small, trembling form in his arms. His daughter was still clinging to him, her body shaking with the aftershocks of fear. He could see the trauma in her eyes, the way she flinched at the noise. He lifted her gently, cradling her against his chest as he had when she was a toddler. She was getting big for it, but right now she needed to feel his strength, his protection. "Come on, sweetheart," he murmured, his voice transformed, now filled only with warmth and love. "Let's get out of here. How about some ice cream?" She nodded against his shoulder, her small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. He could feel her heart, still beating a frantic rhythm against his own. As he carried her out of the store, past the supportive onlookers and away from the scene of her ordeal, he whispered into her ear, "You're safe now, baby girl. Daddy's here. That mean lady can never hurt you again. You did nothing wrong. You are so loved." He repeated the words like a prayer, a shield against the cruelty of the world. "You're safe, sweetheart. You're safe."